bombing isn't that bad. Like you think bombing is like, oh my God, how will I ever? Don't get me wrong, I don't love it, but at the same time, it's not what you think when you imagine. Like when you see someone on stage bombing, and you're like, oh my God, I'm horrified for that person. They go, I got a show tomorrow. You know what I mean? So I realized a bombing isn't quite what I built it up in my head to be, and number two, I didn't want to bomb again. So it was two ideas. So I kind of had my Eminem moment where I went back and I bought a microphone. I practiced in front of the mirror, and then and it look, it's still that, right? It's still every day, every week, you're reinventing yourself. You're thinking you're not funny. You find a joke that you love, then you get tired of it, and you keep. I mean, it's kind of what makes it an amazing art form.
Please like, share, and subscribe. It really helps the channel, and I appreciate it. My guest is Bill Dawes, performing May 18th through the 24th in the Laugh Factory at the Horseshoe Las Vegas. Bill has built an impressive career across television, film, stage, and stand-up comedy. You've seen him on hit TV shows like Law and Order, Sex and the City, Oz, Brazilian Isles, and Criminal Intent. He's appeared in award-winning independent films, starred in MGM family movies. He performed on Broadway. He's become one of the most viewed comedians on the Laugh Factory YouTube channel as well. Well, for ticket information for Bill Dawes at the Laugh Factory, go to Ticketmaster.com, and you can follow Bill on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, and YouTube at Bill Dawes, and that's Dawes. Everybody knows that, Bill. Everybody knows how it's spelled. But I have to spell it out anyway. Anyway, welcome to the show.
Hey, good to see you.
Yeah, pleasure. How did you, with all of your acting and everything else going on, how did you decide initially to focus on comedy? Were you abused as a child? Were you hungry? How did you get into the world of comedy? Were you
I mean,
neurotic?
clearly there's childhood trauma involved. I mean, that goes without saying. Do I want to do the work to find out exactly where it was? I don't know if I do,
Yeah.
but for whatever reason, I was messed up enough that became an actor. I went to graduate school for acting, and I loved it. And I was doing a lot of new plays in New York, and this include Broadway and off Broadway. But there's a certain point as an actor where you get a little tired. Well, at least for me, I got tired of being told, "Hey, just say your lines. You're just an actor. Just say your lines." I mean, I've literally been told that. Look, Bill, you're the actor, I'm the writer, or you're the actor, I'm the director. Like they have this sort of they have a brain that you can't even fathom because you just get to recite what they tell you, whatever. So,
Golden
and I
words.
and I kept kind of bumping heads a little bit, a little, creatively, and I would want to change lines. I always want to get in the script and say, "Oh, this would be funnier if I did this." I ended up getting fired from a play over called Burning Blue, and it was supposed to be this big hit play, and there was an article about it in the New York Post called Naked Aggression. You can Google it. Anyway, I got fired from the play, and I was in a depression. And a friend of mine from college just said, "Hey, why don't you try to do an open mic?" And when I did that, and he basically bribed me with cab money. Remember, people paid for cabs to come down. He bought my drink. I went up there, and of course, I bombed for three. I thought, you know how people are when they start coming, like, I'll just wing it.
Yes, of course.
I'm
Play.
funny.
Yeah.
I'll just go up there and I'll just do crowd work. My first set ever will just be crowd work. And of course, I bombed. But it gave me two realizations. Number one, bombing isn't that bad. Like you think bombing is like, oh my God, how will I ever? Don't get me wrong, I don't love it, but at the same time, it's not what you think when you imagine. Like when you see someone on stage bombing, and you're like, oh my God, I'm horrified for that person. They go, I got a show tomorrow. You know what I mean? So I realized a bombing isn't quite what I built it up in my head to be, and number two, I didn't want to bomb again. So it was two ideas. So I kind of had my Eminem moment where I went back and I bought a microphone. I practiced in front of the mirror, and then and look, it's still that, right? It's still every day, every week, you're reinventing yourself. You're thinking you're not funny. You find a joke that you love, then you get tired of it, and you keep. I mean, it's kind of what makes it an amazing art form. Is you never really kind of land. You're always just kind of struggling to find a new way to express yourself.
Don't you think, though, in a way that you now have a little respect for those writers that say just stick to the script because you're writing your own material.
Yes and no. Not really. Actually,
No.
no. Fuck those people. I was just anything goes. No, I feel like the best artists I've worked with, people like Tommy Kail, who directed Hamilton. These type of people, they're smart enough and they have enough agency that they can hear your ideas and take the good ones
Right.
and not take the bad and take not take the bad ones. Um, but I think people get a little playwrights and writers in film and TV get a little precious about their lines, and I feel like the best ones are the ones who kind of it's an organic breathing thing. Like, what can you bring to the table? And if you have crappy ideas, then as a director or writer, you should be able to decipher which ones are good and which ones are bad. But I feel like, look, actors and comics, we're smart, we're creatives, we're on the same creative playing field as the writers and directors. So if the process is not collaborative, then I mean, short of working with someone who is just one of these next level genius like a Kubrick or a Christopher Nolan, I mean, listen to your actors, listen to your comics. I write for a bunch of comics and I write with a bunch of comics, and sometimes we disagree. And I go, just try it. Try what you think is better, and or try what I think, and it'll come out on stage. But I feel like sometimes you're doing theater, even if you try the better idea, the ego of the playwright or the insecurity is so much
Yeah.
that they won't even allow it, which is how I ended up getting fired from this play I did, you know.
Well, it turned out to be a blessing in disguise.
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, sometimes I think that, sometimes I don't.
Yeah, no, no, I get you. When you first started out, you said something very sage, actually, and most comedians I've talked to over the years have not admitted that. But bombing isn't as bad as one thinks because you learn from it, but you also realize, okay, it didn't work. So, you got to go up the next day and get up on stage and do something different or do the same one, see if you can improve it.
Yeah.
There's ways to deal with it. And you seem to have a very healthy way of dealing with it.
Well, I think, it's kind of at the point now where it's really hard. I've been doing it 20 years now, right? So it's really hard for me to totally just bomb, right? I might bomb a joke.
Yeah,
I might have a bit that doesn't resolve in a way that I like,
right.
but to go up there and just crickets bomb is very rare. Now, every once in a while, something close to that happens, and it does kind of suck. But I think those moments of feeling that you suck and getting slapped a little bit are good. You
Yeah,
need it. That's
yeah,
what human beings need. We don't need complacency. I mean, that's a problem with the world today, right? Is that we've been conditioned to think that what we need is comfort and complacency, and
right.
everything that makes us uncomfortable
Yeah.
and feel stress is bad. No, that's what you need.
So
You
you're
need it.
saying that me carrying my couch around with me wherever I go is not a good idea. Be too comfortable, in other words. You should be uncomfortable.
Sometimes it's good to sleep on a floor on top of newspapers. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
To
that
feel
should
it.
give you a little sense of it. Well, I think too that, and I've asked comedians about this over the years too, and I'll ask it, even though it's a trite question in a way, but it's not. You'll see where I'm going with this. You have what I would call an innate likability. Hard as I'm trying to dislike you, it's very hard. So, so how much of that contributes to your presence and your material on stage and the reaction of the audience because they see you as a likable person?
Well, thank you for saying that. I don't always feel that way. That's for sure. I actually feel that a lot of times I'm touring with a comic named Mario Adrian, who's a German comic who's very, very likable. So I'm the unlikable part of that duo when we work together. So I do know that Jamie Masada, who's one of my comedy mentors, he always said that is one of the most important things as a comic, no matter what, even more than material, is to be likable. Because being likable, I think really what it means is people have an innate sense when someone's being authentic or being who they are. You know what I mean? So I think that if you can go on stage and really kind of drop into who you are, even if you're a piece of shit, it makes you kind of likable, right? I
You're
think that
authentic, yes.
yeah, yeah. I think authenticity is sort of, maybe that's the better word, because I think when people are inauthentic on stage, eventually they get kind of found out. I mean, there's a comic who's really big right now. I don't want to say names, obviously, but I think there's something that's a little inauthentic about his what he does. But he's oh, I'm so polite. I'm this Midwestern guy. I'm so polite, but he's actually kind of a dick.
Yeah.
And so and I think it's become a challenge with him and his fan base because ultimately, like, you can be an authentic dick and people will like you.
Right.
You know
Right.
what I mean? But if you're inauthentic nice guy, people will see that.
But isn't there a challenge in the sense that there are comedians and comics who perform in character and the character is funny, but
Mm.
they themselves may be an idiot or unlikable, but their
Oh,
character
okay.
is so strong that people respond to the character on stage, not to them.
Yeah, I think that that becomes a testament to just really good writing. You know, if your writing is so strong
Right.
that you can write sort of outside the lines of your personality, then there. I mean, look, there are people like I don't know personally know Daniel Tosh. Um, I know people who I mean this doesn't matter, but I know people who don't like him, but it doesn't matter because his writing is some of the best writing I think in the history of comedy. So like he could be a sociopath murderer, and to me it's like it doesn't matter. Same thing with Louis C.K. I mean, look, people obviously have issues with Louis C.K. and what he's done, including himself. But you watch him like, damn it, yeah, he's so good.
Okay, so what you're saying to me is that okay, you don't care for morals or ethics. It's just if they can write well, that's fine. That's
You
what you're
got it.
saying. Yeah, I got it. Okay, good. Yeah, I'm a slow learner, but I picked that up this
Well, I
time.
mean, look, if we really cared about the morals and ethics of our artists, would we listen to any rock and roll music ever made in the '70s
That's a good point. Yes, even going back
or
less.
'80s or
Yeah.
'90s or now or any point? Yeah, yeah.
No, that's good. Bill Dawes is appearing May 18th through the 24th in the Laugh Factory at the Horseshoe Las Vegas. I want to mention that again, and I will mention it a couple more times. Bill, when you decided you were going to go full time into acting and comedy and cooking, I just threw that in. I don't know if you cook, but it sounded everything is in 3D, so I had to have another third one. So when you decided to go full time, was there ever a moment where you look back and you go, well, I could have been a dentist.
Was there ever a moment where I haven't looked back? That's a better. That's a better. I was. I mean, I was touring Europe, and Europe is really amazing. And I was in these beautiful little small towns, and where there was no crime and everything was quiet. You just heard the bird. I was like, why don't I just go off the grid and work in a Scots pub in Luxembourg? Why don't I just do
Good.
that?
Yeah.
It's so obviously the question of getting out of the race and throwing away my social media and being a part of humanity writ large and not trying to chase the tail of whatever rabbit I'm chasing. It's very intoxicating. It's a great idea to fumble around in my head. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm never going to live a normal life. I'm probably going to be 80. Like, can I still get a spot at the Laugh Factory? But it's nice to think about sometimes.
Well, do you think that sometimes comedians, and this is not you personally, but in general, do you think that comedians sometimes will pursue that comedy career because it's a not an excuse, but it's a way of adapting to the world so they don't have to worry about being a dentist or being in that pub in Scotland? In other words, it's a diversion for them because they have the talent and the chops to be funny that there's that comfort level again. We're back to that. It's more comfortable for them than having to go and work hard, become a dentist. Not that they don't work hard as a comedian, but they don't have to be a dentist or a furniture salesman or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah. I used to say that comics are inherently lazy.
I never said that. How dare you suggest that? Perhaps no. Well, no. If you're writing all the time, and a lot of comedians I talk to, they perform, but they're also writing on their off hours. So I can't accuse any comedian of being lazy,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
maybe lazier than a dentist or a doctor or someone that's working.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I went to school for engineering and I probably had PTSD of exams for 10 years after I graduated. For real. So and I'm sure if I went down, I was recruited by Wall Street coming out of college, and offered a job at a place called Anderson Consulting on Wall Street. And this is in, the late '90s. I probably would have been making a friggin' killing, you know. I'd probably be a multi, and I would have adapted to whatever that life is, and
Right.
my neural patterns would have shifted to make this the focus of my life, and I probably would have figured out a way to make it work. So it's hard to know if you were to go into a different path, like being a dentist, if you would just end up, you have such a brain that you would just like lose your mind and have to quit after 20 years and become a comic, in Topeka, just because you need to express yourself. I have no idea. It's hard to prove a negative, but I do think that there is something about being an artist that can lend itself to making yourself kind of lazy. But I think recently the way that the world works right now is the world is very much, it's always been this way, but particularly now it's like you can't wait for your life to happen. You can't wait for someone to go like, hey kid, you got something. Come on with me. You have to actively go after it. I think that's sort of the blessing and the curse of social media, is that you really are given agency to create your own path with social media. And I see that people are doing it. This comic Mario I work with, for example, I mean, he was an underwear model, and he worked his tail off to build his social media presence and his comedy. And he works probably 3-4 hours a day, 5 hours a day, just writing and structure and stuff like that. And I look at him like, oh, you Germans are crazy. But also the proof is in the pudding. Has millions of followers and a massive international touring career. So I'm inspired by that, and sometimes I think about doing it myself. You know what I mean?
Well,
But
you
that's
are in a way because you're working not with social media necessarily, but you're working with, and you have social media, and I'll mention it again in a moment, but you are working with other comedians, as you said. So you're not just doing your own stuff, you're working with other comedians. So that is a dedication, that is a focus, that is a discipline. You
yeah,
may not be 18 hours a day, but then you don't want to exhaust yourself either.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that I feel I've always said this, for better or for worse. I have really good discipline. I have very bad self discipline. If you give me a task and you say,
Right.
"Hey, you're working on a film 18 hours a day,"
You can
and
do it.
it's not a problem for me.
Right.
Or you gotta be an opener, tour manager, merch person, bodyguard, this, that, the other thing for, on a tour. Like, I can do it. I can show up. I can do it.
Right.
Now, my natural state of being, my kinetic energy just wants to be, at the bottom of the friggin' valley, just doing nothing. But
You want to join me on the couch?
it's relaxing. Yeah, but I have to, remind myself, like, this is what I love to do. And if I love to do it, I have to do the things that I don't necessarily want to do. I have to edit clips, and I have to figure out how to, move text around and do all this crap that I was like, that's not what I went to school for. That's not what I became a creative for. But you have to kind of, particularly now,
Yeah.
2026, you have to merge both worlds.
Bill, everybody has to do it now.
Yeah.
Everybody I talk to, and you'd be surprised some of the people I talk to that they have to do it. They have to learn how to do it. And so
Yeah.
everybody's still doing, and now with AI, it becomes another layer to learn, and that's an interesting little concept too. So it works out fine. So based on what you were telling me earlier, when you tour and you're on stage, you're your own bodyguard.
Yeah.
So you have,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I am. I'm my own bodyguard. I like that.
Yeah. So
I
that
like it
works
no matter
out.
what.
How do you structure? I don't want to get overly technical for our audience or listeners and viewers, but how do you structure your material when you're going on stage? Do you scope the audience out first and get a sense of what you're dealing with? So when you're in Las Vegas, again, you're on the 24th, 18th through the 24th at the Laugh Factory at the Horseshoe Las Vegas. When you're on stage, you sort of get a sense of the audience would be X percentage visitors, X percentage, Y percentage of locals. If you're somewhere else on tour, you may get a sense of the locals in that particular market. So
Yeah.
do you do you tailor your material? And you're also a tailor, so that's great too. Do you tailor your material to the audience, or do you just know that you're supremely confident in your approach and your material? You just go up and you do it, and if you bomb, you bomb, as we discussed earlier.
Well, I think that the solution for wherever you are in the world, and obviously I just did, I don't know, 40 cities in Europe or something like that, something crazy,
Wow.
30,
Yeah,
30, 40.
yeah.
And I think that the one thing that you can always fall back on is what is personal to you and what is true to you. So what's if I have an experience in my life that is universal, a feeling like of lost love, or a feeling of rejection, or a feeling of getting old, or whatever that most people can relate to, or at least they can on some look at you and go, okay, I see what this guy's saying. Then I think that that'll work universally. I mean, I have a joke where that has never failed, which is so bizarre, where I talk about being dumped by my fiance. And I say, what's great is that every woman, when I say that, they always go, "Aw," but that's not what they're thinking, because what they're thinking is, and I put the mic to the audience, and I don't care where I am in the world, Canada, Berlin, Australia, women will scream out. It's maybe not happened a couple times. We'll scream out, "What did you do?"
Yeah, right.
I go, "What did you do?" And so you assume I cheated. I didn't cheat. She cheated. And I do a whole thing about, like, she sent me an email, and I get like real emotional. Like, guys, I'm kidding. I cheated on her. But anyway, in my defense, so I kind of that one moment of me kind of revealing I was dumped, reading the email she sent me, then crumbling it and saying I'm lying, I actually cheated on her, will work no matter where I am in the audience, because everyone has opinions about. And then then you go, okay, now I become unlikable again. So then I have to make myself likable. So I said, no, I didn't cheat. She said she needed a man who could financially provide for the relationship. And I was like, me too. Let's find that guy. So then I make myself the victim again, and now we're back. We're back on the level playing field where they can like me again. So I feel like if I get that out there, where they kind of they see that they're okay. Here's a guy who, because a lot of times you're right. Sometimes you'll come on stage, and I'm not a model or anything like that. But I come on stage. I'm a 6 foot tall guy. I'm a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. I'm not small. So I come on stage, and sometimes you can see people like right away, I don't know if I want to like this guy. So there's a balance between knocking yourself down a bit and also still being the guy that they want to see on stage,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Because you can't just be like, I'm a piece of shit and blah, blah, nobody likes me, blah, 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 for an hour. Because people are like, why am I paying $50 to see this dude?
Right. Well, and you get a sense of that when you go on stage. In other words, you can read the audience pretty well and know how to approach that.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's interesting because I had a moment in Reno where a woman was in the front row. She put her feet on stage. She was talking right away, and I had to kick her out within like 5 minutes. It became a whole deal that people wanted to beat me up. But
Shoot.
there is something happening with the audiences now where they really want they feel like comedy shows are now crowd work shows. They feel like that's what they are, because that's what gets promulgated and propagated on social media is all these crowd work clips. So they show up on a show, they're like, oh, we're gonna go and we're gonna like banter with the comic back and forth.
Mhm.
And sometimes I get on there, and look, it depends on different people, but sometimes that's not what I want to do. I had a long week. I want to do my material. I don't want to make the show about this person in the front row. But more and more, it's become a thing where it's something you have to at least negotiate in your stand up, because the audience is now, it's now going to be a part of your act. I think that there's so many people who are now going to stand up for that purpose.
Right.
They maybe never went to a show before, but now they're going to go because, hey, I get to be a part of the show now.
Yeah. It's for their own benefit.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that, and I can't fault them for that. That's what they're seeing out there. So I think for me as a comic, again, I have to keep pivoting and changing. I went from doing tons of crowd work to just focus on material. Whenever people would offer me, hey, we want to shoot your special, want to shoot your special, so you guys send me 30 minutes, no crowd work. So that's what I became. That's what I became accustomed to, and now all of a sudden everyone just wants crowd work. So I kind of have to again readjust my comedy so I'm more open to doing more crowd work.
It'll work out. By the way, I forgot to tell you, I'm dating your girlfriend now.
Nice, congratulations.
Yeah. So we're looking for a guy to support both of us. So we'll see what
Well, well, it makes sense because she's a very famous Jewish dating coach. So she would date a guy named Iris Sternberg.
That's right. Well,
Yeah,
you mentioned touring and in Europe, 30, 40 cities. So you're not only your own bodyguard, you're your own translator. I mean,
yeah.
do they all speak English in all these cities you go to? How does that work?
What's funny about that is when I go to these other cities, I just automatically speak English to everybody, and when they don't speak English, I'm like, "Are you retarded?" Like it's
Bill Dawes, the ugly American.
this weird American supremacy. We're like, you don't speak American? What's wrong with you? Meanwhile, if I was here in America and someone came and said, "Uju, buju, duju," I'd be like, ugh, what are you doing, stupid? Why would you think I speak French? But we just assume everyone speaks English.
Right. Well, it seemed to work. You got through the 30, 40 cities.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of pantomiming and a lot of like, I'm going to the, yeah.
That's funny. Were you, when you first started into the world of comedy, did you have a long range plan, or was it because you, as you mentioned earlier, you were so tired of dealing with the directors and the writers who, they couldn't be touched. You had to do what they wanted to do and don't make any suggestions, just be on stage and do your thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that my career in general is one of the issues is I've never been that ambitious in terms of career stuff. I remember when I was in college and I decided I wanted to be an actor. I got a play. I was watching a play. There's a playbill, and the guy in the playbill was like, he's playing Mercutio, whatever, and he's been on Law and Order. I'm like, one day I'm going to be in a playbill and I'll have a Law and Order credit.
Exactly.
And then when you got a graduate school a year in, and you're like, oh shit, that was my whole goal. That's actually not that impressive. So you have to kind of like, oh, I never really had this goal of by this, by this, by this. So same thing with comedy. I just kind of started like, one day I wanted to work at the Laugh Factory. That was really my big vision board, was like seeing my name in the marquee at the Laugh Factory. Um, that for some reason that club was always what resonated to me and what I always wanted to do. And when I met Jamie Masada for the first time, I said, for the audition, I said, Jamie, this is my club. So just cut the BS and just make me a regular now. And I'm not that guy, but I just was like, yeah, this is it. And it became my club for, 20 years.
Yeah, he's helped a lot of comedians, comics over the years.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That you're able to do that. When you look at your, we have a couple minutes left. When you look at the balance of your career, you've done film, as I mentioned, you've done television, obviously stage work. Do you think every so often, even though you said in the beginning about performing on stage as an actor, that was an issue with the writers and the directors, do you think you'd want to go back and do some more stage work at some point?
Think about that all the time. I mean, it would have to be the right circumstance, obviously. Um, I don't know if I miss it, to be honest. I don't know if there's something that would give me that I'm not getting from comedy and from acting in TV and film. But I will say it is rare to be in situations where you get to really have that visceral feeling of pain and drama and anger that you get to do in theater. I mean, sometimes you get to do a nice film or TV part where you get to have that. But in theater, it's all of that. It's all about two people in a room together who love each other but can't stand each other, and that's really exhilarating to do. But even then, like, to get those roles it's hard to get those. So yeah, obviously, if I were to be given a great, I would even make the argument that if I was given an opportunity of like selling out Madison Square Garden as a comic for a weekend or winning a Tony on Broadway, I'd probably opt for the Tony. You know, because I think in my heart, as much as I love comedy, as much as I am a performer, I think that the part of me, what I can express from acting is just a little bit deeper and maybe help soothe those childhood issues a little bit more than
Yeah.
what comedy gives me,
Well, that's a great way to leave it. My guest is Bill Dawes. He's performing May 18th through the 24th in the Laugh Factory at the Horseshoe Las Vegas. For ticket information, go to Ticketmaster.com. And you can follow Bill on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, and YouTube at Bill Dawes. Bill, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Ira. Very nice to meet you.
Same here. See you next time.